Sometimes, the ones who cannot see guide the rest of us to the light. Halo, the white German shepherd, stands motionless at the edge of the dense forest, his coat slick with the morning drizzle, ears pricked, nose twitching against the damp air. The fog rolls in low, clinging to the trunks of towering Douglas firs like a ghostly veil, muffling the distant calls of birds and the crunch of leaves under the boots of Staff Sergeant Isaiah Brooks. Isaiah crouches beside Halo, his broad shoulders hunched, breath visible in the cold, early October air, fingers brushing the dog's wet fur, feeling the tension that radiates from the animal despite its blindness. The forest is quiet in a way that presses against the chest, thick with the scent of wet pine needles and earth turned soft from the overnight rain, and Isaiah knows that Halo isn't reacting to what they can see. The dog is sensing something far beyond the reach of human eyes, a presence, a life, a thread of hope hidden somewhere within the tangled undergrowth. Twilight light filters through the mist, casting long shadows that stretch across the forest floor, broken only by the occasional glint of a puddle reflecting the pale sun struggling to pierce the canopy. Each step Isaiah takes is deliberate, careful, as he follows Halo along a narrow trail that dips and rises over moss-covered roots and fallen logs, the dog moving with a quiet confidence that seems impossible given the depthless darkness behind his milky eyes. A soft breeze stirs, carrying the faintest whisper of movement. Leaves brushing together, the subtle creak of a branch under a weight unseen, and Halo freezes, head cocked, nostrils flaring as if tasting a secret on the wind. Isaiah leans down, whispering, "Lead the way, boy," and Halo responds not with sound, but with a small, precise shift forward, a direction that seems almost guided by instinct alone. The trail narrows further, flanked by thick ferns dripping with rain, and the forest floor becomes uneven, a mixture of mud and pine cones that crunch softly beneath their feet. Halo pauses again, sitting squarely in the damp soil, ears forward, tail still, and Isaiah senses the familiar pulse of urgency, the silent command to wait, to observe, to trust. He looks down at the dog's amber eyes that once caught the sun, now opaque yet luminous with purpose, and he feels the weight of their shared history. Missions run together in distant deserts and mountains, the unspoken bond forged through danger and survival. The fog thickens, turning the world into a haze of gray and green, and Isaiah's senses sharpen, picking up on the faintest movements, a broken branch rocking gently, the rustle of small limbs, the scent of moss mixed with something else, warm, alive, faint but unmistakable. Halo stands, stepping forward carefully, his paws sinking slightly into the soft earth, and Isaiah matches him, each step an act of faith. Time stretches, minutes folding into each other as they move deeper into the forest, and every sound, every shadow becomes a part of the map Halo has constructed in his mind, a guide to what they are seeking. Then, from beneath the heavy canopy, a small, sharp sound, the whimper of something small, weak, hidden. Halo stops, nose quivering, and Isaiah freezes beside him, listening. The world narrows to that single, trembling sound, and a sense of anticipation coils tight in Isaiah's chest. Halo's body tenses, a low, almost imperceptible growl vibrating in his chest, not of anger, but of recognition, of understanding that the fragile life they are approaching hangs by a delicate thread. The dog steps with careful precision toward the noise, guiding Isaiah past low-hanging branches, through damp underbrush, until the soft cry becomes clearer, more insistent. Isaiah's heart hammers as he realizes that Halo, though sightless, is leading them not blindly but with certainty, through the maze of the forest, towards something, or someone, worth every careful, cautious step. The morning mist curls around them, the damp smell of pine and wet earth filling the air, and every sense Isaiah has is focused on following Halo, trusting the dog's instincts, feeling the silent urgency that flows from his companion like a river of purpose. And in that hush, broken only by their measured steps and the whisper of wind, there is a sense of something sacred forming. In the forest, a quiet miracle waiting, just beyond the next bend, that only the blind white K9 could see, and that Isaiah must trust he will reach, step by careful step, together with the dog who cannot see, yet guides with absolute clarity. Isaiah Brooks moves quietly behind Halo, following the white German shepherd through the thick underbrush, every footstep deliberate, careful to not startle the dog as it guides him along a narrow trail lined with mossy rocks and fallen pine needles. The dampness of the morning has turned the forest floor slick, each step squishing softly beneath their boots, mingling with the faint rustle of leaves in the light wind. Halo pauses momentarily, head tilted, nostrils flaring as he catches a scent that Isaiah cannot yet perceive. The dog lifts one paw, places it gently on the earth, then steps forward, deliberate, unhurried, yet with unwavering purpose. Isaiah tightens his grip on the leash, senses alert, feeling the rhythm of Halo's movement as if the dog communicates without words, a silent command that he must trust. The mist swirls around them, curling through the trees, and the light of the rising sun cuts pale shafts through the fog, illuminating the damp needles and glistening spider webs that Halo steps over with ease. Isaiah recalls the missions they have undertaken together in the past, the deserts of Afghanistan, the mountain trails of the Pacific Northwest, and how Halo's instincts always surpassed any technology, any tool, guiding them safely through unknown terrain. His boots sink slightly into the wet earth as he follows, every sense attuned to the forest, to the sounds of distant water trickling, the faint bird calls, the creak of branches. Halo stops again, ears forward, and Isaiah freezes, feeling the tension in the dog's body as the forest seems to hold its breath around them. The scent becomes stronger now, mingled with hints of pine and wet earth, yet tinged with something sweet, faint but unmistakable, the aroma of cloth and life. Isaiah moves closer, crouches low, eyes scanning the environment, trusting Halo's silent guidance, noticing for the first time the subtle depressions in the earth, the delicate impressions of small feet, the flattened grass where someone or something has pressed against the soil. The white coat of Halo gleams dimly in the fog, muscles taut, tail held straight and still, every movement purposeful. Isaiah can feel the unspoken bond between them, an understanding forged through years of shared experience, danger, and survival. A sudden gust of wind brings the smell more distinctly to Isaiah, and his heart tightens with recognition. The dog steps carefully to the side, revealing a narrow path obscured by ferns and fallen branches, and Isaiah sees a piece of pink fabric caught on a low branch, fluttering slightly in the wind. His breath catches. He kneels to examine it, fingers brushing the damp fibers, knowing instinctively it is connected to the life Halo is seeking. Halo sits, tail sweeping softly over the ground, eyes fixed ahead, ears alert, and Isaiah senses the urgency in the silence. The forest seems alive with anticipation, every sound amplified in the quiet, every shadow stretching longer as the sun continues to rise, filtering gold through the mist. Isaiah stands slowly, adjusts the strap of his pack, and follows Halo as the dog moves deliberately down the path, guided by senses far beyond human comprehension, toward the source of the scent, the trace of life hidden deep within the forest. The trail narrows further, dense foliage brushing against their arms, droplets of water clinging to leaves, reflecting the fragile morning light. Isaiah hears the faintest whimper, so subtle it could be mistaken for the wind. Yet Halo reacts instantly, body stiff, ears forward, tail low but quivering slightly, signaling the approach of something in need. Isaiah's heart pounds in rhythm with each careful step, the forest closing around them, the mist weaving between the trees, and he trusts entirely in Halo's guidance, following the dog whose eyes cannot see but whose mind and heart perceive every detail, every threat, and every life worth protecting. They move as one, man and dog, through the damp, fragrant forest, a silent team bound by loyalty and trust, each step bringing them closer to the moment they have been moving toward the fragile life Halo has sensed, hidden, and is determined to protect. The underbrush thickens as Halo leads Isaiah deeper into the forest, the air damp with lingering mist and the earthy scent of pine needles and wet soil. Every step is careful, deliberate, yet filled with purpose, as if the dog navigates not by sight, but by memory and instinct. Isaiah listens intently to the soft scuff of paws against the mossy ground, the gentle rustle of leaves, the faint drip of water from branches overhead. A distant creek murmurs somewhere unseen, weaving through the forest like a quiet thread, and Halo pauses briefly, tilting his head, sniffing, then moving forward again with unwavering resolve. Isaiah notices how the dog's body shifts slightly with each step, muscles coiled yet fluid, a rhythm born of years of trust between man and canine, each understanding the other's movements without a word. Shafts of sunlight break intermittently through the canopy, glinting off wet leaves and illuminating patches of the forest floor, revealing faint traces of small footprints pressed into the soft earth, the shapes suggesting a child or a small animal had passed this way not long ago. Isaiah's heart beats faster as he recognizes the trail, subtle evidence that confirms what Halo has been signaling all along, a silent map that only the dog could read. The scent intensifies, a delicate mixture of fabric and human warmth carried on the damp wind, faint but unmistakable, and Halo stops once more, sitting squarely on the soft ground, tail sweeping slowly, ears forward, chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. Isaiah crouches beside him, steadying himself, eyes scanning the thick ferns and twisted roots, trying to make sense of the subtle indicators the dog reads so clearly, trusting that this unspoken communication will guide them to their destination. A fallen tree forms a natural bridge over a shallow gully, its bark slick with moisture, and Halo steps carefully across, nose low, ears alert, pausing briefly when the tree shifts slightly beneath his weight before continuing, a silent signal to Isaiah that they are safe to follow. Isaiah moves slowly, mindful of his footing, feeling the tension in the forest, the way the mist hangs like a living curtain, each breath and heartbeat amplified in the quiet. The trail opens into a small clearing where the fog lifts just enough to reveal the ground is scattered with broken branches and flattened foliage, signs of recent passage. Halo's posture tightens, his head rising slightly, nose twitching toward a faint sound almost imperceptible amidst the whisper of the wind and the distant creek. Isaiah freezes, listening, and realizes that the soft sound is a whimper, a fragile note of life barely audible, yet powerful enough to anchor their senses. Halo steps forward deliberately, guiding Isaiah around low-hanging branches and into a cluster of tall ferns, where the ground slopes gently downward toward a hollow partially concealed by the overgrowth. The whimper becomes clearer, urgent, and Isaiah feels a surge of anticipation mixed with a quiet reverence for the dog leading him. Each movement of Halo is precise, deliberate, yet gentle, conveying the urgency of the life ahead without panic or haste, and Isaiah matches him step for step, attuned to the dog's signals, relying entirely on the K9's intuition. A tangle of fallen branches forms a natural barrier, and Halo pauses, sits low, and fixes his gaze on a narrow opening just beyond, nose quivering, ears forward. Isaiah approaches slowly, peering through the gap, and glimpses a faint flash of color, a small piece of pink fabric caught on a branch, trembling slightly in the breeze. His chest tightens as he kneels, brushing his fingers over the damp fabric, recognizing it as a trace of the life Halo has been guiding him toward. The forest seems to hold its breath, mist curling around the trees, droplets clinging to leaves and branches, and in that stillness, Isaiah feels a profound connection with the dog at his side, the years of training, trust, and shared experience culminating in this single, silent moment of guidance and hope. Halo rises, steps through the opening carefully, and Isaiah follows, every sense alert, every movement deliberate, as they move toward the fragile life hidden just beyond the veil of the misty forest, each step a testament to the quiet strength, loyalty, and unwavering purpose of the white K9 leading the way. Isaiah eases through the narrow opening behind Halo, pushing aside wet fern leaves with one hand while keeping the other close to the dog's shoulder, not guiding him, only staying near enough to feel the quiet language of his body. The forest beyond the barrier changes. The air grows colder. The trees stand closer together, their trunks dark with rain, their branches woven overhead so tightly that the morning light arrives in thin silver lines. The sound of the creek fades behind them, replaced by a lower sound, something hollow and steady, like water moving beneath the ground. Halo stops so suddenly that Isaiah nearly steps past him. The dog lowers his head, sniffs the mud, then turns in a slow circle, nose tracing a path Isaiah cannot see. There, beneath a patch of crushed salal leaves, Isaiah notices the first sign that makes his stomach tighten. A small drag mark in the mud, no wider than his hand, running crookedly between the roots. Beside it are paw prints, not halos, smaller, uneven, pressed deep, as if whatever made them had been tired, carrying weight, refusing to quit. Isaiah kneels, the damp earth soaking through the fabric at his knee, and touches the edge of one print with 2 fingers. Fresh, maybe a few hours old. Halo steps forward, then stops again beside a thin cedar branch bent low across the trail. Caught on the bark is a strand of pale thread, almost white, trembling in the wind. Isaiah lifts it carefully. It is not from the pink fabric he found before. This thread smells faintly of dog, rainwater, and something medicinal, like an old blanket from an animal shelter. He glances at Halo, whose cloudy eyes face the deeper woods with solemn certainty. You found more than one trail, did you not, boy? Isaiah whispers. Halo gives a soft breath through his nose, almost a sigh, then moves on. The ground slopes downward, and the mud gives way to pine needles piled thick over roots and stone. A half-mile back, search teams are still combing the eastern creek bed for Lily Harper, following flood maps, tire tracks, and probability. Out here, there are no markers, no orange flags, no shouted updates over radios. Only Halo's slow steps. Only Isaiah's breathing. Only the growing feeling that the woods have been keeping a secret and are now letting it out one small piece at a time. A few yards ahead, Halo veers sharply left toward a cluster of blackberry vines tangled around an old deer path. The thorns pull at Isaiah's sleeves as he follows. He parts them gently, careful not to snap the branches too loudly. On the other side, the ground dips into a shallow basin hidden from the main trail, and the smell changes again. Wet wood, old smoke, rusted metal. Then Isaiah sees it. A hunting cabin, or what is left of one, crouches in the trees like something forgotten by time. Its roof has partly collapsed under the weight of a fallen fir. One window is boarded over. The other hangs open, dark inside, its frame silvered by years of rain. A faded green door leans crooked on one hinge. The place is not on the county map. Isaiah would have missed it completely if Halo had not walked straight toward it, nose low, body trembling with restrained urgency. 10 feet from the porch, Halo stops and lowers himself to the ground. Not from fear, from respect. Isaiah knows the difference. The dog stretches his neck forward and lets out one soft, broken whine toward the open doorway. Isaiah's hand moves to his radio. Brooks to search command, he says, keeping his voice low. I have an unmarked structure west of the main creek line. Possible evidence connected to the missing child. Send medical and rescue support to my location. Static crackles, then a distant reply comes through, clipped by the trees and weather. Isaiah does not wait for the rest. He steps onto the porch, and the old boards creak beneath his boots. Halo rises, but does not enter. Instead, he stands at the threshold, ears forward, tail low, nose pointed at the floor inside. Isaiah looks down and sees muddy palm marks across the boards. Small ones. Many of them. Then, near the doorway, something that stills him completely. A child's handprint in dried mud, pressed against the wall at knee height, as if someone had steadied herself there before moving on. Isaiah exhales slowly. Lily, he says, barely louder than the rain. Inside, the cabin smells of damp blankets, old cedar, and cold ashes. Light slips through cracks in the roof, falling in pale stripes across a warped wooden floor. A small blue lunchbox sits open near the corner, empty except for a soggy napkin and half a cracker. Beside it lies a pink hair bow, crushed but clean, placed almost carefully on a folded piece of cloth. Isaiah's throat tightens. Whoever had been here had not scattered things in panic. Someone, or something, had made a place out of ruin. Halo whines again from the doorway, sharper this time, and presses one white paw over the threshold without coming in. Isaiah follows the direction of the dog's nose and notices the floorboards near the back wall. One of them is lifted slightly. Beneath it, from the darkness below, comes a sound so faint it almost disappears into the rain. Not a child's voice. A newborn whimper. Then another. Isaiah crosses the room slowly, kneels, and lifts the loose board with both hands. Cold air breathes up from the gap. In the shadow beneath the cabin floor, tucked inside the sleeve of a small yellow raincoat, 3 tiny white puppies shiver against one another, alive, weak, and silent except for the smallest cry. For a moment, Isaiah cannot move. The forest, the cabin, the rain, even his own grief seem to fall away. Halo steps inside at last, careful and trembling, and lowers his head toward the opening, as if counting each breath below. Isaiah looks at the puppies, then at the pink bough, then at the muddy child's handprint on the wall, and suddenly the trail makes a terrible, holy kind of sense. Lily had been here. The puppies had been here. And somewhere in this rain-soaked forest, a mother dog had carried a secret too heavy for any creature to bear alone. Isaiah reaches into his pack and pulls out a thermal wrap, moving with the careful discipline of a man who knows that fragile things must never be rushed. The 3 puppies make almost no sound now, only small breaths that tremble against the yellow raincoat sleeve. Their fur is white like halos, damp at the edges, their eyes still sealed, their bodies pressed together for warmth in the narrow dark beneath the cabin floor. Isaiah slides one hand under them, one at a time, lifting each puppy as if lifting a prayer. Halo stays beside him, blind eyes lowered, nose close enough to feel their breathing, but never touching too hard. He gives one soft whine when the smallest puppy shifts against Isaiah's palm. "I have got you," Isaiah murmurs, wrapping the tiny bodies together inside the silver thermal sheet. "All of you." Outside, voices begin to carry through the trees. Branches snap under boots. A radio chirps. The rescue team is closing in, led by Corporal Mason Reed and Sheriff Nolan Briggs, both moving fast through the rain with orange packs on their shoulders. Grace Harper is not far behind them, despite every warning to stay near the road. Isaiah hears her before he sees her, calling Lily's name into the wet woods with a voice so tired it sounds older than grief. Halo hears it too. His ears tilt backward, then forward again, as if the sound of the mother's voice has become part of the trail. Mason appears first at the cabin doorway, rain running off the brim of his cap. He is 26, lean, restless, with the kind of open face that has not yet learned how to hide fear well. His eyes drop to the puppies in Isaiah's arms, then to the muddy child's handprint on the wall. "Sergeant," he says softly, "is she here?" Isaiah does not answer right away. He looks toward the back corner of the cabin, where the floorboards sag near the collapsed wall. Halo has moved there now, nose pressed to the warped boards, body completely still. Not searching, guarding. Isaiah hands the wrapped puppies to Mason. "Keep them warm. Do not separate them." Sheriff Briggs steps inside behind Mason, broad hat dripping onto the floor, his expression hardened by 18 hours of failed searching. The moment he sees the lunchbox, the pink bough, and the raincoat sleeve, the hardness leaves his face. "Dear Lord," he whispers. Then Grace reaches the porch. Her brown hair is soaked flat to her cheeks, her jacket smeared with mud, her hands trembling as she grips the doorframe. She sees the bough first. Not the puppies. Not Isaiah. The bough. Her knees bend as if the floor has disappeared beneath her. Mason turns quickly, steadying her with one arm while holding the puppies close with the other. "Ma'am," he says gently, "we found signs she was here." Grace stares at the handprint on the wall, and for one breath, no one speaks. The rain taps on the broken roof. Water drips into an old metal pan somewhere in the corner. Halo lowers himself beside the sagging boards and places his white paw on one plank. Isaiah watches him. The dog's breathing has changed, shallow and focused, the way it used to before locating a buried training dummy beneath snow or rubble. But this is not a drill. This is a living forest, cold and wet and full of hidden places. Isaiah kneels beside Halo and places his hand flat against the floor. At first, he feels only damp wood. Then, beneath it, the faintest vibration. A tap. So soft he thinks his own heartbeat has fooled him. Then it comes again. Tap. Pause. Tap. Grace hears nothing, but she sees Isaiah's face change. "What is it?" she asks, her voice breaking around the question. Isaiah raises one hand, asking for silence. The whole cabin goes still. Even Mason stops, shifting his weight. Halo presses his ear to the board, blind eyes half closed, nose trembling. Tap, tap, tap. 3 tiny sounds from somewhere below or beyond the cabin wall. Isaiah looks at Mason. Get the rescue probe. Now. Sheriff Briggs frowns, stepping closer. The crawl space is only 2 feet deep. We checked the outside when we came in. Isaiah keeps his hand on the floor. Not the crawl space. He turns toward the collapsed back wall, where old leaves and mud have pushed through the broken boards. There is something under the slope. Mason runs out into the rain. Grace takes 1 step forward, but Isaiah gently lifts his palm. Mrs. Harper, stay where the floor is steady. She nods, pressing both hands to her mouth, eyes locked on Halo as if the dog is the only thing in the world still speaking clearly. Sheriff Briggs removes loose boards near the back wall, careful and slow, while Isaiah clears wet leaves from the gap beneath the foundation. The smell of cold earth rises, thick and mineral, mixed with the faint scent of creek water. Halo inches forward and gives 1 low, urgent sound from his chest. Not a growl, a warning. Isaiah stops immediately. A clump of soil falls away on its own, revealing a round concrete edge hidden beneath roots and mud. An old drainage culvert, half buried, nearly sealed by the storm. I know this line, Briggs says, voice suddenly thin. It runs under the ridge toward Miller Creek. It has been abandoned for years. Isaiah leans closer, careful not to disturb the loose earth. From the darkness inside the culvert comes a breath of air so faint it barely touches his face. Then the tapping again. Slower now. Weaker. Grace whispers her daughter's name, and this time, from somewhere deep inside the ground, a small voice answers with only 1 word, stretched thin by cold and darkness. Mommy. The cabin breaks. Not in wood or stone, but in every heart standing inside it. Mason returns with the rescue probe and freezes at the doorway. Sheriff Briggs takes off his hat. Grace lets out a sound too quiet to be a cry and too full to be silence. Isaiah closes his eyes for half a second, and when he opens them, Halo is already standing, facing the culvert, white fur glowing dimly in the gray light, blind eyes fixed on the place no one else had trusted enough to search. The puppies stir inside the thermal wrap, their tiny bodies warming against Mason's chest, and suddenly Isaiah understands the mercy hidden in the trail. Lily had given up her raincoat to save them. Their mother had dragged the shoe and the scent toward help. And Halo had followed not 1 life, but every act of love that life had left behind. Isaiah kneels beside the edge of the partially buried culvert, feeling the cold metal under the mud, tracing it carefully with his fingers while Halo sits patiently, tail low, ears forward, every muscle taut with attention. The faint sound of breathing continues from beneath the ground, tiny and hesitant, mingled with the whisper of rain dripping through the broken roof above the cabin. Grace Harper crouches nearby, holding 1 hand over her heart, the other gripping Mason Reed's arm, her eyes wide, locked on the narrow opening that promises her daughter is alive. Mason watches. Isaiah, his face taut with concentration, holding the wrapped puppies against his chest, their warm bodies pressing into his uniform as a reminder of what had been protected before and what still needs to be rescued. The rain falls harder, tapping against the warped boards above them, collecting in small rivulets that trickle through gaps and over the edges of the porch, splashing onto the forest floor, carrying with it the scent of wet pine, mud, and life. Isaiah places 1 hand on Halo's shoulder, feeling the tremor in the dog's muscles, a subtle quiver that speaks of anticipation and focus. The dog had sensed more than footsteps or sound. It had detected life itself, fragile and urgent, and had guided them here with unwavering certainty. Slowly, Isaiah leans forward, peering into the culvert, and sees a shadowed space barely large enough for a child to fit, the walls slick with mud, roots dangling like small green curtains. Then he hears it clearly, a small voice, trembling, faint, calling for help. Mommy! Isaiah freezes for a heartbeat, letting the word echo in the damp space, letting the moment stretch as though time itself recognizes the weight of life in the dark. Halo shifts forward slightly, 1 paw resting lightly on the edge of the culvert, nose moving as if to reassure the hidden child that they are not alone. Isaiah reaches in carefully, his fingers brushing the tiny hand that emerges from the shadow, pale and wet, gripping his fingers with the strength of a small life clinging to hope. "You are okay," he whispers, feeling the rapid heartbeat through the small hand, feeling the warmth of her skin despite the cold that has seeped into her bones. Grace gasps softly behind him, voice catching in her throat, unable to speak past the sudden flood of relief and fear and love. Mason lowers the puppies toward the opening, letting their soft whimpers mix with the child's fragile breaths, creating a chorus of life that fills the damp cabin. Halo sits back, breathing shallowly, eyes fixed on Isaiah and the child, aware of the rescue but not claiming it, only witnessing and ensuring that no harm comes in the fragile seconds that stretch out like eternity. Isaiah lifts the child carefully, nestling her close, feeling her tremble against his chest, her tiny arms gripping him, the warmth radiating through the soaked jacket he wraps around her. The rain continues to fall, each drop a small percussion on the roof, on the leaves, on the ground, marking the rhythm of their quiet victory. Halo steps closer, rubbing against Isaiah's leg, nuzzling the child gently, sniffing for any sign of distress, his white fur glistening with wetness and dawn light. Grace moves forward slowly, tears streaming down her face, hands reaching out, trembling, and Isaiah hands her daughter into her embrace, feeling the weight of her trust, the fragility of the moment, the absolute certainty that life has been protected by devotion unseen and instincts beyond comprehension. Mason stands beside them, holding the puppies carefully, each movement deliberate, reverent, watching the reunion unfold with quiet awe. The forest beyond the cabin seems to hold its breath, the mist curling between the trees, the sound of the rain softened as though it respects the miracle that has occurred within this hidden place. Halo lowers himself, body relaxed now but attentive, ears flicking toward every sound, still blind yet guiding the emotions of everyone present with his calm presence. Isaiah rests a hand on the dog's head, feeling the pulse of life and loyalty, a connection forged over years of missions, danger, and silent understanding. Grace holds her daughter close, whispering reassurances, brushing wet hair from her child's face, looking up at Isaiah with gratitude that cannot be spoken in words, only felt. The puppies stir slightly in Mason's arms, their tiny noses twitching, and Isaiah knows that this is only the beginning of care, of warmth, of restoration. But for this moment, everything fragile and dear has been held together by faith, patience, and the unwavering guidance of a dog who cannot see but knows more than any map or chart could ever show. The rain begins to lighten, mist curling between the tree trunks as morning slowly deepens into day, the damp air carrying the scent of wet pine and earth. Isaiah Brooks stands beside the cabin, watching. Grace Harper holds Lily close, her hands brushing damp hair from her child's forehead, eyes closed as if to memorize the warmth and life she feared she might never see again. Halo sits a few feet away, white fur glistening with raindrops, ears flicking toward every subtle sound, tail moving slowly, a quiet rhythm of attention and presence that speaks louder than words. Mason Reed gently lowers the wrapped puppies onto a dry section of the porch, their small bodies huddled together, noses twitching as they sense safety for the first time since the storm, their soft whimpers fading into the gentle patter of rain. Isaiah leans down, pressing one hand to Halo's head, feeling the warm, steady pulse beneath the damp fur, a bond that has endured countless missions and trials, now proving its purpose in the silent, careful guidance that has led them here. The forest beyond the cabin is quiet, the storm receding, light breaking through the canopy in thin, golden lines that illuminate patches of moss and fallen needles, revealing the delicate footprints that led them here, traces of life, hope, and survival that only Halo could follow. Grace slowly straightens, looking at Isaiah with a mixture of relief and reverence, her voice trembling as she whispers, "Thank you," though the words are insufficient for what she feels. Isaiah nods, eyes scanning the surrounding woods, taking in the full weight of the moment, the fragile balance of life that has been preserved by instinct, trust, and unspoken understanding. Halo rises and moves closer to the culvert, placing one paw lightly on the edge, sniffing at the ground where Lily's hand had pressed, as if confirming that the child is safe, that the path he has chosen was true. Isaiah adjusts the rain jacket around Lily, feeling her small fingers clutching his uniform sleeve, her breath coming in shallow, uneven puffs, but steady, alive. Mason crouches to adjust the thermal wrap around the puppies, their tiny bodies shifting slightly, as if sensing the reunion above, whimpers softening into gentle sighs. Sheriff Nolan Briggs steps forward, hat in hand, voice low and reverent as he says, "I have seen many rescues, but I have never witnessed guidance like this." Eyes flicking between Halo, Isaiah, and the child. The forest itself seems to exhale, leaves trembling in the gentle breeze, droplets falling from branches like tiny applause for the quiet hero standing steadfast in the rain. Halo's breathing slows, but he remains alert, head turned toward the sound of distant rescue teams moving through the trees, the faint hum of radios and footsteps mixing with the natural rhythm of the woods. Isaiah crouches beside the dog, speaking softly. "You did not just find them, boy. You led us to what mattered most." And Halo presses his head against Isaiah's knee, tail sweeping the wet wooden boards in a slow, contented rhythm. Grace bends down to gather the puppies from Mason's arms, holding them close to her chest, Lily nestling against her. And for a moment, the three generations, the mother, the child, and the small lives Halo protected, are together in a fragile circle of warmth amidst the damp, quiet morning. The rain lightens further, sun piercing the mist in thin, trembling beams that touch the cabin porch, highlighting the white fur of Halo and the faces of those he has guided, casting long shadows that stretch into the surrounding forest. Isaiah watches the scene, feeling a mix of relief, reverence, and awe, knowing that the morning will carry the story forward, the memory of instinct and loyalty, the quiet power of a creature who cannot see yet perceives all that is important. Halo steps forward, careful paws making soft impressions in the wet boards, and Isaiah follows, guiding the small family toward the edge of the clearing, toward warmth, care, and the safety that the dog's intuition has wrought. The forest hums quietly around them, the rain softened, mist lifting, and in the gentle light, every breath, every touch, every small movement feels sacred, a testament to patience, trust, and the unseen ways in which life preserves itself when guided by unwavering loyalty and quiet courage. By the time the rescue team carries Lily out of the trees, the rain has faded into a silver mist, and the forest seems softer than it did before, as if the whole ridge has stepped back from the edge of sorrow. Grace Harper rides in the back of the emergency vehicle with Lily wrapped in warm blankets against her chest, one hand resting over her daughter's small fingers, the other placed gently over the thermal carrier where the three white puppies sleep in a huddled knot of breath and warmth. Mason Reed sits near the open doors, watching the road behind them vanish between the firs, his uniform streaked with mud, his eyes fixed on the tiny movements inside the carrier. Sheriff Nolan Briggs drives ahead with his lights on, but no siren, because no one wants to break the fragile peace that has settled over them. Isaiah Brooks walks beside Halo along the final stretch toward the service road, refusing the offer of a ride, not because he is proud, but because Halo will not move quickly now. The white K9 is tired. His paws are caked with mud, his coat is damp and heavy, and his blind eyes stare forward through a world he cannot see, yet his steps remain steady, measured, faithful. Isaiah slows whenever Halo slows. He does not pull the leash. He does not command. He simply walks beside him like a man walking beside an old friend who has earned silence. Behind them, the abandoned cabin disappears into the mist, but Isaiah can still feel its hidden darkness, the child's handprint on the wall, the soft tapping beneath the floor, the newborn cries rising from below like sparks from cold ashes. At the road, Dr. Emily Carter is waiting beside a mobile veterinary unit, her dark blue jacket zipped to her chin, her hair tucked beneath a knit cap, her face tense with worry until she sees Halo step out of the trees. Emily had been the one who told Isaiah months ago that Halo should retire for good. She had said it gently, professionally, with sadness in her voice, but Isaiah had heard the finality beneath it. A blind dog deserved rest. A wounded dog deserved peace. And maybe she had been right. But now, as she watches Halo walk out of the woods with mud on his legs and purpose still in his chest, she covers her mouth with one hand, and says nothing for several seconds. Halo lifts his head at the sound of her breath. His tail moves once. Not proudly, just enough to say he knows she is. There. Emily kneels on the wet gravel and lets him come to her. He presses his nose into her sleeve, and she folds both hands gently around his face, careful around the cloudy eyes that no longer open to light. "You stubborn old miracle," she whispers. Isaiah looks away for a moment, toward the ambulance where Lily is being checked beneath a wool blanket. The child is awake now, pale and exhausted, but calm. Grace keeps smoothing the blanket, though it is already smooth, as if her hands need work to believe this is real. Mason brings the puppies to Emily, who opens the carrier and examines each one under a small warming lamp. "Cold, but strong," she says, her voice breaking on the last word. "They are strong." Then Halo turns. The motion is slow at first, almost accidental, but Isaiah feels the leash shift in his hand. The dog faces back toward the woods. His ears rise. His nose lifts into the damp air. Isaiah's body goes still. He knows that posture. He has followed that silence before. Emily notices it too. "Isaiah," she says softly, "what is he doing?" Halo takes one step toward the tree line, then another. Mason looks from the puppies to the forest. Sheriff Briggs stops beside the ambulance, his hat in his hands again. "There cannot be more," he says, but the words carry no certainty. Isaiah crouches beside Halo and places a palm against his chest. The heartbeat beneath his hand is fast, tired, and sure. Halo gives one low whine, not toward the cabin, not toward the culvert, but toward a darker patch of brush south of the trail, where the storm runoff has carved a narrow channel through leaves and mud. Isaiah closes his eyes for one breath. He is not finished. No one argues this time. Not the sheriff. Not Emily. Not even Mason, who still looks as if his heart has not caught up with what the morning has already shown him. They follow Halo again, but only 50 yards this time, down a shallow slope where the smell of wet cedar thickens and the ground dips beneath an old fallen log. Halo stops near a hollow lined with ferns. He lowers himself carefully, chest to the mud, and stretches his neck forward. Isaiah shines his flashlight beneath the log. At first, there is only shadow. Then two amber eyes blink back, weak but watchful. A German shepherd mother lies tucked into the hollow, gray-white fur-soaked, body curled toward the space where her puppies had once been. She does not bark. She does not rise. She simply watches Halo with the exhausted trust of a soul that has given everything and is waiting to know if it was enough. Grace, standing behind Isaiah with Lily bundled in her arms, begins to cry without sound. Lily lifts one small hand from her blanket and points. "She kept us warm," the child whispers. "She pushed the shoe out when I could not crawl anymore." Isaiah feels the words move through the group like a prayer no one knew they needed. Emily comes forward slowly with a blanket, her face wet from rain and tears together. Halo remains lying in the mud, nose inches from the mother dog's face, breathing softly, as if telling her in the only language that matters that her babies are safe, the child is safe, and she can stop carrying the world alone. The mother dog's eyes soften. Her nose touches Halo's once. That is all. But every Marine standing there breaks a little in the quiet, because in that small touch is the whole story of the morning: a blind canine, a lost child, 3 newborn puppies, and a mother who had protected life until help finally learned how to listen. Dr. Emily Carter works with the quiet speed of someone who understands that healing begins before anyone says the word. She kneels in the wet leaves beside the hollow, speaking softly to the mother dog while Isaiah holds Halo a few feet back, giving the frightened animal space, giving her dignity, giving her the kind of patience the morning has demanded from all of them. The mother German shepherd does not resist when Emily slides the blanket beneath her. She only lifts her head once, searching the air, and Halo answers with a small breath through his nose. That is enough. The mother lets her head rest again, not defeated, only finished with the longest watch of her life. Mason Reed carries the 3 puppies close to his chest as Emily and Sheriff Briggs lift their mother into the mobile veterinary unit, and when the carrier is placed beside her, something changes in the air. The puppies stir at the scent of her. The mother dog turns her face toward them. Her eyes, dull with exhaustion moments before, soften with recognition, and Grace Harper presses one hand over Lily's eyes, not to hide the sight, but because the tenderness of it is almost too much for a child who has already held too much courage in one night. Lily peeks through her mother's fingers anyway. She knows them, she whispers. Isaiah stands beside Halo, rainwater dripping from the edge of his jacket, and feels the words settle inside him. She knows them. Such a small sentence. Such a holy one. At Redwood County Medical Center, the afternoon light comes through tall windows in clean white bands, washing the hallway in a gentleness that feels almost impossible after the mud, the cold, and the hidden dark beneath the cabin. Lily is examined, warmed, wrapped, and given a cup of apple juice with a bendy straw. She keeps asking for the puppies. Grace keeps saying they are safe. Every time she says it, her voice trembles less. In the veterinary wing connected to the county rescue shelter, Emily places the mother dog on a heated blanket and sets the puppies close to her side. The mother is too tired to do much, but when one puppy nudges against her, she lowers her chin and gathers it closer with the smallest motion. Mason turns away quickly, pretending to adjust something on a shelf. Sheriff Briggs clears his throat and studies the floor. Isaiah does not look away. Neither does Halo. The white K9 sits at the open doorway, forbidden by no one now, his cloudy eyes facing the room, ears relaxed for the first time all day. Emily looks back at him and shakes her head with a sad smile. He knew she was still out there, she says. Isaiah nods. He knew all of it. Later, when the doctors allow Lily to sit in a wheelchair for a few minutes, Grace rolls her down the hallway to the glass window outside the shelter room. Lily wears dry pajamas printed with little yellow stars, and a hospital blanket rests across her lap. Her face is pale, her hair still damp at the ends, but her eyes are awake. Halo rises before anyone calls him. He walks toward her. Slowly, guided by the sound of the wheels, the smell of apple juice, the soft hitch in Grace's breath. Lily reaches out. Her small hand touches the top of his head, then moves gently down to his muzzle. Halo stands perfectly still. I heard you, Lily says. No one speaks. Isaiah looks at Grace, then at Emily, but Lily only keeps her hand on Halo's face. When it was dark, I heard tapping. Then I tapped too. I thought it was the white dog from my dream. Grace closes her eyes. Emily presses her knuckles against her lips. Isaiah feels something inside his chest loosen, something that has been tight for years, since the day Halo lost his sight, and Isaiah decided the world had taken too much from them both. Lily leans closer, her voice barely above a whisper. He told me not to stop. Halo lowers his head until his forehead rests against the edge of her blanket. Isaiah kneels beside him, and for a moment, the Marine, the child, the mother, the doctor, the young corporal, and the sheriff all stand inside a silence that does not feel empty. It feels full. That evening, the storm finally clears. The clouds break open over the Oregon hills, and the last light of day spills gold across the hospital parking lot. Grace sits by Lily's bed, asleep in a chair with one hand still wrapped around her daughter's fingers. In the shelter room, the mother dog sleeps with her puppies tucked against her warmth. Mason has already started calling them the Snow Angels, though he denies it when anyone asks. Sheriff Briggs files his report with fewer words than usual, because some things lose their truth when they are forced to sound ordinary. Isaiah finds Halo outside beneath a covered walkway, nose lifted toward the clean air after rain. He sits beside him on the concrete, his knees aching, his uniform still stained with mud. From his pocket, Isaiah removes his old dog tag, the one he stopped wearing after the accident that blinded Halo. The metal is worn smooth at the edges. He turns it once in his hand, then fastens it gently to Halo's collar. The tag rests against white fur, catching the last thin line of sunset. You were never done, Isaiah says quietly. Halo leans into him, heavy and warm, and Isaiah places one arm around the dog's shoulders. Across the glass doors, Lily wakes just enough to see them. She smiles, small and sleepy, then closes her eyes again. Isaiah does not need a medal, and Halo does not need sight. The proof is sleeping inside the building behind them. One child breathing safely, one mother dog resting at last, 3 puppies warmed by the life she refused to surrender. Some miracles do not arrive with thunder. Some come softly through rain and mud, led by paws that know the way when human hearts have forgotten how to trust. And sometimes, what looks broken to the world is only being prepared to find what everyone else has missed.